What happens when an interview stops being an interview and becomes a moment that rewrites everything we thought we knew? When two voices, long guarded by professionalism and silence, finally allow truth to surface under the weight of a single question. Last night, under studio lights that had witnessed countless rehearsed answers and polite smiles, Long and Yang Mei Mei crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. What unfolded was not just a confession, but a quiet earthquake that left audiences stunned and hearts racing long after the cameras stopped rolling. This story isn't over. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. We follow the moments and emotions of your favorite K-drama stars. Stay with us. The interview began unremarkably, almost deceptively calm. Two familiar faces sat across from the host, poised, composed, wrapped in the practiced ease of people accustomed to being watched. Long, steady and thoughtful, spoke with his usual restraint. Yang Mei Mei, graceful and warm, answered with her signature composure. To an untrained eye, it was another promotional appearance, another carefully measured conversation in a long career of public visibility. But beneath the surface, something was shifting, something unspoken pressing against the edges of silence. As the questions moved from professional milestones to personal reflections, the atmosphere subtly changed. The lighting seemed softer, the pauses between answers longer. There was a tension in the air, not uncomfortable, but heavy with anticipation. When the host asked about trust, about companionship, about the people who truly understand them beyond the cameras, Long hesitated. It was a pause that lasted only seconds, yet felt like an eternity. And in that pause, the world seemed to lean closer. Long spoke first, his voice calm but unmistakably vulnerable. He talked about finding someone who sees the parts of you that fame never touches. Someone who understands the exhaustion behind the applause, the loneliness hidden behind schedules and scripts. His words were careful, but his eyes betrayed him. They drifted, almost instinctively, toward Yang Mei Mei. It was not a dramatic gesture, not a declaration, but a glance filled with meaning, history, and something deeply personal. Yang Mei Mei listened in silence. When it was her turn to speak, her composure softened. She spoke of shared journeys, of support given quietly, without expectation or recognition. She spoke of moments that never make headlines, moments that exist only between two people navigating the same demanding world. Her voice did not waver, but there was an honesty in it that felt unfiltered, unpolished, real. And as she spoke, the unspoken truth grew louder. Then came the moment no one had prepared for. A question, simple in form, profound in consequence. The kind of question usually deflected with a smile or a joke. But this time, there was no deflection. Long exhaled slowly, as if releasing a weight he had carried for far too long. Yang Mei Mei met his gaze, not surprised, not hesitant, but ready. What followed was not a loud confession, not a dramatic proclamation, but a quiet acknowledgement of something that had long existed between them. They did not name it with spectacle. They did not dramatize it. Instead, they spoke of connection, of choosing each other in small, consistent ways, of being present through uncertainty, through growth, through change. In that moment, the interview transformed. It was no longer about careers or achievements. It became a window into a shared truth, one revealed not through grand words, but through sincerity and mutual understanding. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Viewers fell silent, not out of confusion, but out of recognition. This was not a scripted moment. This was not performance. This was vulnerability unfolding in real time. Fans across screens felt it instinctively, that rare sensation of witnessing something genuine in a world so often defined by appearances. Social platforms erupted, not with noise, but with awe. Many struggled to find words, because what they had just seen transcended commentary. What made the confessions so powerful was not its content alone, but its restraint. Long and Yang Mei Mei did not offer details. They did not explain timelines or labels. They offered something far more intimate, truth without decoration. In doing so, They reminded everyone watching that the most profound emotions are often the quietest, that love does not always announce itself loudly, and that authenticity needs no embellishment. As the interview drew to a close, there was a sense of finality, not of ending but of beginning. The two sat side by side, no longer guarded by ambiguity. The studio lights dimmed, but the impact of the moment only intensified. This was not a revelation meant to shock, but one meant to breathe. One meant to exist, simply and honestly, in the open air. Long after the broadcast ended, the confession continued to echo. Not because it changed how people saw Yulong and Yang Mei Mei as public figures, but because it revealed who they are when the world stops demanding perfection. It showed courage not in bold declarations, but in quiet truth. It showed that sometimes, the most unforgettable moments are born not from intention, but from honesty finally given space to speak. Last night was not just an interview. It was a moment suspended in time. A reminder that behind every composed smile is a story still unfolding. And that when two people choose truth over silence, even the softest confession can leave the loudest echo. And yet, the confession was only the beginning. What followed in the hours after the interview was a quiet transformation, one that unfolded not on the studio floor, but in the hearts of those who had witnessed it. The world did not explode into chaos. Instead, it held its breath. There was a collective pause, a rare moment where noise softened into reflection, where people replayed the scene again and again, searching not for scandal, but for meaning. Yulong and Yang Mei Mei had offered no grand explanation, no definitive labels, no promises shaped for headlines. That restraint became the very reason the moment felt sacred. In an era where oversharing is currency, they chose understatement. And in doing so, they allowed imagination, empathy, and respect to fill the space they left behind. Fans began to notice things they had overlooked before. A lingering glance from years past. A moment of quiet support during difficult times. Small gestures that once seemed ordinary now revealed a deeper narrative, one written slowly, patiently, over time. Industry insiders spoke of professionalism, of boundaries carefully respected. Close observers noted how their careers had grown alongside one another, never intertwined publicly, yet never fully separate. It was as if two parallel paths had always been moving closer, step by step, until last night, when they finally converged. The confession did not rewrite history. It illuminated it. What resonated most deeply was the emotional maturity of the moment. There was no rush, no urgency to convince or persuade. Yulong's calm acceptance of the truth, Yang Mei Mei's steady presence beside him, conveyed something rare, certainty without arrogance, intimacy without possession. It was the language of two people who had already done the work privately, long before allowing the world a glimpse. As dawn broke and the interview clips continued to circulate, messages from fans took on a different tone. There was excitement, yes, but also gratitude. Many spoke of feeling honored, trusted with something real. Others reflected on their own lives, their own quiet connections left unnamed, realizing that not all love stories need to be loud to be valid. In that sense, Yulong and Yang Mei Mei's confession became more than personal. It became universal. Neither returned immediately to social media. There were no statements, no clarifications. Their silence was not avoidance. It was confidence. A silent affirmation that what mattered had already been said, not with words, but with presence. When they finally did reappear separately, in unrelated schedules and appearances, something had shifted. The guarded edges were softer. The performances carried a new depth. As if truth, once released, had unburdened them both. Observers would later say that last night marked a turning point. Not because it defined their relationship, but because it redefined how sincerity could exist in public space. It reminded audiences that intimacy does not owe the world an explanation. That confession does not require spectacle. That sometimes the most powerful declaration is simply the refusal to hide. And so, the moment lingers. Not frozen in replay clips or headlines, but alive in memory. A shared understanding between two people, briefly illuminated, then allowed to return to its natural rhythm. Yulong and Yang Mei Mei did not promise a storybook ending. They offered something far more profound, the truth of a chapter honestly lived. Last night did not answer every question. It did something braver. It asked us to listen differently, to recognize that behind composed smiles and controlled narratives are human beings choosing when and how to speak their truth. And when they do, even softly, the echo can travel far beyond the walls of a studio, far beyond a single night, into something lasting.